The office hums with the sound of keyboards, phones ringing, and the faint hum of fluorescent lights. In the corner, Marcus Reed, a young black engineer with sharp eyes and an even sharper mind, bends over his workstation. He's been refining a design for weeks, a revolutionary energy-efficient processor that, if it works, could change the tech industry forever. But across the room, his boss, Charles Whitman, struts like he owns not just the company, but everyone in it. Charles is old money, a man who inherited power rather than earned it. He enjoys the sound of his own voice and thrives on reminding people where they stand in his hierarchy. Today, his attention lands on Marcus. "What is this nonsense?" Charles barks, slamming a folder onto Marcus's desk. Heads turn. Conversations stop. Marcus straightens slowly, suppressing the flash of irritation that threatens to rise. "It's the new prototype I've been developing. The efficiency results are promising, up to 4% more output for the same cost." Charles laughs, a cruel sound that carries across the office. "Promising? Please, you think you're going to rewrite decades of engineering in a few months? You don't have the pedigree for this. Stick to the assignments you're given." A murmur ripples through the office. Some employees shift uncomfortably. Others smirk at Charles's words, eager not to be caught on the wrong side of his temper. Marcus takes a slow breath. "With respect, sir, the data speaks for itself. I just need approval for further testing." Charles leans in, his voice dripping with condescension. "Approval? You want me to waste company resources on your pet project? Let me make this clear. You're lucky to even be here. Don't overstep." The words hit Marcus like a slap, but he refuses to flinch. Instead, he locks eyes with his boss, steady and unbroken. Around them, the office watches in silence, the tension crackling like static in the air. Later that afternoon, Marcus sits in the cafeteria, staring into a cup of cold coffee. His colleague Jenna slides into the seat across from him. She's one of the few who speaks her mind openly, even when it's risky. "You handled that better than I would have," she says quietly. Marcus shakes his head. "I'm tired of handling it. Every time I present something, it's dismissed. Not because it lacks merit, but because of me." Jenna's eyes soften. "You know that's true, but you also know your work is brilliant. Charles can't stop that forever." Marcus forces a smile, though his chest feels heavy. Brilliance doesn't pay off when it's buried. That night, Marcus stays late, the office empty and quiet. The glow of his monitor lights his face as he pores over the data. Every line, every calculation confirms it. The prototype works. As the hours drag on, frustration transforms into resolve. If Charles won't approve it, Marcus will build it himself. He transfers files onto a secure drive, gathering blueprints and notes. His mind races with possibility. This invention could change everything. But he also knows the risks. If Charles finds out, he could lose his job. And yet, Marcus can't ignore the calling in his chest, the fire that says this design matters too much to let die in a drawer. The next morning, Charles hosts a meeting with the department heads. Marcus sits quietly at the end of the table, his notes in hand, his heart pounding. Charles flips through slides, his tone dripping with self-satisfaction. "Our quarterly results are solid, but we need innovation, real breakthroughs that prove we're leading this industry." Marcus feels the heat rise in his chest. He glances at Jenna, who gives him the smallest nod of encouragement. He raises his hand. "Sir, if I may, I have something that could be that breakthrough." Charles's smile freezes. "Oh? And what miracle are you promising this time?" Marcus stands, projecting calm even as adrenaline surges through him. He clicks the remote, bringing up a slide of his prototype's performance charts. This processor design reduces energy consumption by nearly half while boosting efficiency. It's scalable, cost-effective, and environmentally sustainable. With proper backing, we could patent this within the year. The room stirs, heads lean closer, whispers ripple. Even the most skeptical managers look intrigued. Charles's jaw tightens. He forces a laugh. "Numbers on a screen don't change reality. This is a fantasy, nothing more." "But the data is real," Marcus insists. "I can demonstrate it in real time." Charles slams his fist on the table, the sound echoing. "Enough. You are not authorized to present personal projects in my meetings. Sit down before I make sure this company never sees your face again." The silence is deafening. Marcus sits slowly, his pulse hammering, but his eyes remain steady. Around the table, no one dares speak. Charles moves on, but the damage is done. Everyone has seen the charts. Everyone has heard the conviction in Marcus's voice. And though Charles tries to bury it, a spark has been lit, a spark that will only grow. The following days move like a slow storm. Charles Whitman struts through the office as though nothing happened, his insults still hanging in the air. But Marcus Reed carries himself differently now. On the surface, he looks calm, quietly doing his assigned tasks. Beneath that exterior, though, his mind churns with plans. Each night when the last lights dim and the office empties, Marcus stays behind. He waits until the janitors push their carts through the halls, until silence presses against the walls. Then he pulls out his notes, loads his blueprints, and begins working in secret. His invention isn't just a sketch anymore. It's coming alive. He scavenges spare parts from abandoned projects, borrows tools no one checks, and uses his own modest savings to order components online. Piece by piece, circuit by circuit, the prototype takes shape on a small table hidden in the back of the lab. Marcus calls it Eclipse. The name feels right, an innovation powerful enough to overshadow what came before. Meanwhile, Charles grows restless. He senses that Marcus's spirit hasn't broken. In meetings, Marcus's eyes still hold fire. That unsettles him. For Charles, control is everything. One afternoon, as Charles strolls past Marcus's desk, he stops. "Still tinkering?" he sneers. Marcus doesn't look up. "Just finishing my assignments." Charles studies him for a beat too long, then forces a smile. "Good, don't forget your place." The words sting, but Marcus barely hears them. His focus is elsewhere, on the quiet promise he made to himself, that no insult, no threat, no barrier will bury his brilliance. At home, Marcus's tiny apartment becomes an extension of his lab. His living room table is buried under circuit boards and power regulators, notebooks filled with calculations, energy drinks stacked like bricks. He loses track of time, sometimes working until dawn, his eyes burning but his spirit alive. One evening, Jenna drops by. She takes one look at the chaos and laughs softly. "So this is what you've been hiding?" Marcus grins sheepishly. "It's the only way. If I can just get this working, I'll have proof no one can ignore." Jenna picks up a circuit board, turning it in her hands. "You know Charles will hate you even more for this." Marcus shrugs. "Then he'll hate me for being right." Weeks turn into months. Eclipse begins to hum with life. The prototype flickers, fails, and flickers again. Every failure only sharpens Marcus's resolve. He studies what went wrong, rewires, recalibrates. Slowly, success inches closer. Finally, late one night, the breakthrough comes. Marcus adjusts the final circuit, flips a switch, and the device whirs to life. Energy flows through the system, readings spike on his monitor, and the data is clear. Efficiency improved by 47%. Marcus leans back, exhaustion flooding his body, but his smile is unstoppable. "It works," he whispers into the empty room. "It really works." But secrets rarely stay hidden. One morning, Charles overhears two junior engineers whispering about Marcus. "He's been staying late," one says, "always working on something after hours. Whatever it is, he looks like a man possessed." Charles's eyes narrow. He storms into his office, fury simmering. "So the boy thinks he can outsmart me." He hatches a plan. If Marcus has built something, Charles will find it and crush it. That evening, Marcus is in the lab, double-checking his results. His headphones block out the world, music pulsing as he records data. He doesn't hear the door creak open. He doesn't see Charles lurking in the shadows, eyes gleaming with suspicion. For a moment, Charles just watches, rage twisting his face. He sees the prototype glowing, monitors flashing with impressive data. He realizes what this means. Marcus has done it. He's created something that could change the industry. Charles's chest tightens with envy. "No," he mutters under his breath. "This is mine. This company is mine. He'll never take this from me." Before Marcus can notice, Charles slips away, a sinister plan forming. The next day, Marcus arrives at work to find Charles waiting at his desk, a fake smile plastered across his face. "Marcus, I've been thinking," he says smoothly. "You've been working hard. Why don't you let me see what you've been tinkering with?" Strictly for evaluation, of course. Marcus freezes. He knows immediately. Charles suspects, but revealing his hand now would be suicide. "It's nothing, sir," Marcus replies evenly. "Just extra practice. Nothing useful." Charles leans in close, his voice a hiss. "I'll find out, Reed. And when I do, you'll regret ever stepping out of line." Marcus meets his gaze, unflinching. "Maybe. Or maybe you'll regret underestimating me." For a heartbeat, silence hangs between them, sharp as a blade. Charles straightens, his smile gone. He walks away, but Marcus knows the war has officially begun. That night, as Marcus stares at Eclipse humming quietly in his apartment, he feels both exhilaration and dread. His invention is real, undeniable. But so is Charles's hatred. He whispers to himself, the words both a vow and a warning. No one can stop this, not even him. The spark has become a flame, and soon the world will see it burn. The office feels colder in the days after Charles confronts Marcus. On the surface, everything looks normal. Reports circulate, projects continue, employees buzz about deadlines. But under the surface, tension simmers. Charles is watching. Marcus can feel his boss's eyes on him at every turn, waiting for a misstep. Despite the pressure, Marcus carries himself with quiet determination. He shows up on time, finishes his assigned work, and avoids drawing unnecessary attention. But at night, when the building empties, he continues refining Eclipse. Every successful test only fuels his confidence. Yet Charles is not a man who waits. One morning, Marcus walks into the office to find chaos at his workstation. His computer is gone. His drawers are emptied. The prototype parts he had hidden in the lab are missing. "What the?" Marcus whispers, his heart pounding. Jenna rushes over, her face pale. "Marcus, Charles ordered it to confiscate your equipment. He told everyone you were violating company policy." Marcus's jaw tightens. He knows exactly what this means. Charles is trying to bury his work before it can ever see daylight. Later that day, Charles calls Marcus into his glass-walled office. The entire floor seems to watch as Marcus steps inside. Charles sits behind his massive oak desk, smiling like a predator. "Marcus," Charles begins smoothly, "we found some extracurricular projects on your computer. Unauthorized projects. You know how seriously this company takes intellectual property theft." Marcus clenches his fists but keeps his voice steady. "Those designs were mine, built on my own time, with my own resources." Charles leans back, feigning disappointment. "Ah, but you used company facilities, company computers. That makes it ours." Marcus's eyes narrow. "You've never cared about innovation, only control. You don't want progress, you want ownership." Charles's smile twists into a sneer. "That's how the world works, Reed. People like you don't change industries. They work for men like me who do." Marcus stands, his voice low but burning. "You can take my files, but you can't take my mind. Eclipse exists because of me, not you. And no matter how hard you try, you won't erase that." For a moment, Charles's mask slips, his eyes flashing with rage. But then he chuckles darkly. "We'll see." The next few days are suffocating. Rumors spread across the office. Some whisper that Marcus stole company property, others that he's been reprimanded. The truth hardly matters. Perception is poison enough. Still, Marcus refuses to fold. With Jenna's help, he recovers backups of his data from a secure drive he'd hidden away. Every night, back in his apartment, he continues building, testing, pushing Eclipse toward perfection. But Charles escalates. He assigns Marcus menial tasks far beneath his skill, drowning him in pointless spreadsheets and outdated projects. He excludes him from key meetings, blocks his emails, and even spreads subtle digs during staff briefings. "This department needs loyalty, not wild ideas," Charles says one morning, his eyes locking on Marcus. "We don't need dreamers. We need workers." The words sting, but Marcus only straightens in his chair. "A dreamer built the first plane. A dreamer built the first computer. Without dreamers, you'd have nothing." The room falls silent. Some employees smirk, others stare in awe. Charles's face darkens, but he moves on quickly, unwilling to show just how deep Marcus's words cut. At home, exhaustion gnaws at Marcus. Between long hours at work and sleepless nights perfecting Eclipse, his body aches, his eyes burn. But his spirit refuses to break. Each success with the prototype renews him. Each barrier Charles throws only sharpens his resolve. One evening, as he runs a new test, the results shock even him. Eclipse doesn't just improve efficiency by 47%. After a critical tweak, the system hits 60%. Marcus stares at the monitor, hardly breathing. 60%. That kind of leap could save corporations billions, reduce global energy consumption, even reshape entire industries. He whispers to himself, "This isn't just a project anymore. This could change the world." But Charles isn't done. Late one night, Marcus receives a knock at his apartment door. When he opens it, two men in suits stand there, cold and official. One flashes a badge. Mr. Reed, we're here regarding a complaint from Whitman Enterprises. You've been accused of intellectual property theft. We need to ask you a few questions. Marcus's stomach sinks. He realizes Charles has gone further than he imagined. He's bringing the law into it. As the men step inside, Marcus feels the weight of the battle pressing harder than ever. Charles isn't just trying to humiliate him now, he's trying to destroy him completely. But deep down, Marcus knows one thing: truth is on his side. And as long as Eclipse exists, no lie can bury it forever. The war has only just begun. The investigators sit stiffly in Marcus Reed's small apartment, their suits too polished for the cramped space. One flips through a folder while the other scans Marcus's table cluttered with wires and notes. Eclipse hums faintly in the corner, covered hastily with a cloth. Mr. Reed, the taller investigator says, your employer claims you've been misappropriating company resources for personal projects. That's a serious allegation. Marcus keeps his tone calm, though his pulse thunders in his ears. My designs are my own. I never signed over the rights to my mind. Every part I used here was purchased with my money. I've kept my personal work separate. The shorter man raises an eyebrow. Even if that's true, you understand the optics? You're an employee. Anything you create while under Whitman Enterprises can be argued as belonging to them. Marcus folds his arms, his voice steady but firm. Then they can argue in court, but this invention is mine, and I won't let Charles Whitman steal it. The investigators exchange a look. One scribbles notes, then they both rise. We'll file our report, the taller one says. Expect to hear from corporate counsel soon. When the door shuts, Marcus exhales shakily, his chest tight. He knows this isn't just about paperwork. Charles is setting the stage for a full assault, legal, professional, personal. The next morning at the office, whispers follow Marcus down the hallway. People step aside, their eyes darting toward him, then away. The rumors have spread. Charles has branded him a thief. In the break room, Jenna corners him. They're saying you stole company property, she whispers. Some believe it. Charles is painting you like some rogue employee out for glory. Marcus rubs his temples. That's exactly what he wants. If I look like the problem, no one will question him. Jenna leans closer, her voice fierce. Then you fight back. You've got proof, Marcus. Don't let him spin the story. That evening, Marcus gathers his files. Purchase receipts, timestamps, personal bank statements showing he funded the project himself. He organizes everything into a folder, determined to defend Eclipse. But Charles strikes again. The following week, Marcus is summoned to a disciplinary hearing at corporate headquarters. The room is large, intimidating, lined with executives who glance at him with cool detachment. At the head of the table sits Charles, his smile smug and confident. Mr. Reed, one of the executives begins, serious concerns have been raised about your conduct. Unauthorized projects, potential misuse of company property. We need clarity. Charles interjects smoothly, his tone dripping with false concern. Marcus is talented, no doubt, but sometimes ambition leads to recklessness. We cannot risk the company's reputation on unverified experiments. Marcus stands, his folder in hand. With respect, everything I've built was on my own time, with my own money. The results are real. I have the data here. Eclipse is not reckless, it's revolutionary. He lays the documents on the table, his voice steady as he explains. The executives lean in, flipping through the pages. For the first time, some look intrigued. But Charles interrupts sharply. Unverified claims. Even if his numbers are real, they belong to us. That's the law. And until this is settled, Reed should be suspended. The words hang heavy in the air. After a tense pause, the board chair clears her throat. We'll review this thoroughly. In the meantime, Mr. Reed, you are placed on temporary leave. Marcus feels the floor tilt beneath him. Suspended. Exactly what Charles wanted. Back in his apartment, Marcus stares at Eclipse, glowing softly on his desk. His career, his reputation, his livelihood, all hanging by a thread. Jenna calls, her voice urgent. Marcus, you can't let them silence you. You need allies outside the company. Investors, journalists, someone who'll see the value before Charles buries it. Marcus grips the phone. If I take it public, Charles will double down. He'll drag me through court. Then let him, Jenna says fiercely. If your invention works, the truth will outshine his lies. But you need to make your move first. Her words echo in his mind long after the call ends. For weeks, Marcus has fought in the shadows, trying to stay quiet, trying to play fair. But Charles isn't playing fair. He never has. Marcus looks at Eclipse, its steady hum filling the room. He whispers to himself, "If they won't give me a platform, I'll build my own." The next day, Marcus makes a decision that will change everything. He reaches out to an independent tech journalist he once met at a conference. He sends her the data, the results, and an invitation to witness a live demonstration. If Charles wants war, then Marcus will fight it in the open. And this time, the world will be watching. The cafe is quiet when Marcus Reed arrives, his backpack slung over his shoulder. Inside, tucked away at a corner table, sits Lila Torres, the tech journalist he reached out to. She's sharp-eyed, confident, known for exposing corporate corruption. "Mr. Reed," she says warmly as he sits, "your message caught my attention. Claims of a 60% efficiency jump? That's either groundbreaking or too good to be true." Marcus sets his backpack on the floor and meets her gaze. "It's real. I can prove it." She leans back, crossing her arms. "Then prove it. Show me what Whitman Enterprises is trying so hard to bury." Marcus nods. He unpacks Eclipse, a sleek prototype that looks modest, almost ordinary. But when he connects it to his laptop and flips the switch, the system comes alive with a soft hum. He pulls up graphs, energy outputs, efficiency charts. The numbers climb. 40%, 50, 60. Lila leans forward, her eyes widening. "This isn't smoke and mirrors. It's actually doing it." Marcus smiles faintly, though exhaustion lines his face. And that's only the beginning. Scaled up, Eclipse could save billions in energy costs, reduce environmental strain, and change how the world thinks about efficiency. Lila exhales, stunned. "And Charles Whitman is trying to claim this as his?" Marcus nods grimly. "He confiscated my files, accused me of theft, and got me suspended. But Eclipse is mine. I won't let him erase me." The next day, Lila publishes her article. The headline is bold. "Black engineer suspended after creating breakthrough tech. Company boss accused of sabotage." The piece spreads like wildfire. Within hours, tech forums buzz with speculation. Investors whisper about potential. Activists highlight the racial undertones of Marcus's struggle. On social media, hashtags trend, #Justice for Reed, #Eclipse. Innovation. Marcus's phone floods with messages. Some are supportive, others skeptical. A few are threats. Jenna bursts into his apartment holding her phone. "Marcus, you've gone viral. Everyone's talking about Eclipse." Marcus runs a hand over his face. "This is bigger than I expected." "It's exactly what you needed," Jenna insists. "Now Charles can't bury you quietly. The world is watching." But Charles Whitman is not a man to back down. Inside his corner office, he slams the newspaper onto his desk, fury twisting his face. "He went public," Charles snarls. "He actually went public." His assistant shifts nervously. "Sir, investors are calling. They're asking why we let him go." Charles's jaw clenches. "Enough. If Reed wants a fight, he'll get one. Prepare a statement. Make him look reckless, unstable. Make them believe Eclipse is dangerous." 2 days later, Whitman Enterprises releases a press statement. It's cold and polished, painting Marcus as a disgruntled employee who misused resources for unverified experiments. It warns that untested technology can pose significant risks if not handled responsibly. The statement circulates widely. Some believe it, others don't. But the battle lines are clear. Marcus versus Whitman. Amid the case, Lila calls Marcus. "People are split. Half think you're a visionary, half think you're reckless. We need to tip the balance." "How?" Marcus asks. "By proving Eclipse works in front of witnesses who can't be ignored." That weekend, Marcus rents a small co-working space and sets up Eclipse for a live demonstration. Lila brings in a handful of key figures, an independent scientist, a venture capitalist, and even a community leader who advocates for clean energy. The room is tense as Marcus begins. His hands tremble slightly as he connects the prototype. "Thank you all for coming. What you're about to see could change how we use energy forever." He powers on Eclipse. The system hums, graphs climb on the monitor. The scientist checks the readings, his brows rising in disbelief. 61% efficiency improvement, the scientist says aloud. This is extraordinary." The venture capitalist leans forward, eyes gleaming. "If this scales, it's worth billions." Marcus feels the weight lift from his chest. For the first time, others see what he's known all along. Eclipse is real. But just as relief settles over him, the door bursts open. Charles Whitman strides in, flanked by two company lawyers. His voice booms. "This demonstration is unauthorized. Reed, you are in violation of your suspension and company policy. Shut this down immediately." The room freezes. Lila raises her phone, recording. The scientist and investor exchange sharp looks. Marcus steadies himself, his voice clear. "This isn't company property, this is mine. And the world deserves to see it." Charles's face reddens, his control slipping. "You'll regret this, Reed. I'll bury you in court." Marcus meets his glare, unflinching. "You've tried and failed. From here on, Eclipse speaks for itself." The witnesses nod, their expressions firm. In that moment, Marcus knows. Charles's grip is loosening. The fallout from the demonstration spreads like wildfire. Clips of Marcus Reed standing defiantly against Charles Whitman circulate across social media, replayed with captions like, "Truth can't be buried," and "Innovation versus oppression." The scientist who attended releases a public statement. "I verified the readings myself. Eclipse is a genuine breakthrough in energy efficiency." The venture capitalist follows with a tweet. "Marcus Reed is the future. Eclipse has potential to disrupt the global market." For Marcus, the validation feels surreal. Months of struggle, secrecy, and sabotage are finally breaking through the walls Charles built. For the first time, Marcus isn't fighting alone. But Charles Whitman isn't finished. In his office, Charles paces like a caged animal. His lawyers sit quietly as he rants. "That boy humiliated me in front of witnesses," Charles snarls. "He dares to make me look weak? I'll destroy him. I don't care if it takes every dollar I have." One lawyer clears his throat. "Sir, the problem is the evidence. His data is strong and now credible figures support him. Any lawsuit could backfire." Charles slams his fist on the desk. "Then we don't use lawsuits, we use pressure. Dig into his past, find debts, mistakes, anything. If there's nothing, make something." The narrative must shift. Marcus Reed is unstable, dangerous. That's the story now. The room falls silent. The plan is clear: character assassination. Marcus, meanwhile, finds himself overwhelmed. Reporters call nonstop. Investors request meetings. Activists send messages of support. He barely has time to eat, let alone rest. Jenna arrives at his apartment one evening with takeout. "You're running on fumes," she says, pushing food into his hands. Marcus chuckles weakly. Sleep feels like a luxury. Every hour counts. She studies him, worry in her eyes. "You've lit a fire you can't control, Marcus. That's good, but it's dangerous too. Charles won't just roll over, he'll come harder." Marcus nods. "I know. But for the first time, I believe I can win." 2 days later, Charles makes his move. A smear article hits the internet. "Engineer behind Eclipse under fire." Accusations of academic dishonesty and financial misconduct surface. It's filled with half-truths and outright lies. Claims that Marcus plagiarized college projects, that he defaulted on loans, that he once falsified data at a former job. The story spreads fast. Some people defend Marcus, others demand answers. His phone buzzes with journalists asking for comment. Marcus slams it down on the table, frustration boiling. "He's trying to paint me as a fraud." Jenna flips through the article, her jaw tight. "None of this holds water, but perception matters. You need to address it, now." That night, Marcus agrees to a live interview streamed online. Lila Torres sits across from him, her expression calm but serious. "Marcus," she begins, "allegations have surfaced questioning your integrity. How do you respond?" Marcus exhales slowly, staring into the camera. This is what happens when innovation threatens power. Charles Whitman couldn't stop Eclipse with lies inside the company, so now he's spreading them outside. But the truth is simple. My record is clean, my work is honest, and Eclipse is real. Anyone who doubts it is welcome to review the data themselves. The comments section explodes. Supporters flood the chat, dismissing the smear as corporate desperation. Hashtags trend again, this time with even more force. Hashtag stand with Reed. #Whitman lies. Inside his office, Charles watches the interview, his face pale with fury. His smear campaign hasn't crushed Marcus, it's backfired. People are rallying around the engineer even more fiercely. For the first time, Charles feels something he hasn't in years: fear. Marcus, though, knows the war isn't over. After the interview, he sits in his apartment, staring at Eclipse humming steadily in the corner. "This isn't just about an invention anymore," he murmurs. It's about proving that truth survives even when power tries to bury it. Jenna, sitting nearby, adds softly, "And you're not alone anymore. The world's watching. That's your shield." Marcus nods, resolve hardening. Then it's time to take the next step. Eclipse won't just be a prototype, it'll be a company. He opens his laptop, drafting plans for a startup. If Charles wants a war, Marcus will fight it on the biggest stage possible. The morning after his live interview, Marcus Reed sits at his cluttered kitchen table, Eclipse glowing faintly nearby. He flips through his notes, sketching out a vision that feels almost impossible. A startup built around Eclipse, independent of Whitman Enterprises. For years, Marcus worked under someone else's shadow. Now he's determined to step into the light. He begins with the basics, registering a company name. After hours of brainstorming, he settles on Luminar Technologies. The name reflects his mission, bringing light and clarity to an industry clouded by greed and inefficiency. Next, he contacts the venture capitalist who witnessed his demo. Their response is immediate. "Let's talk." Within a week, Marcus is pitching in a sleek conference room overlooking the city skyline. Across the table sits Dana Holloway, a seasoned investor with a reputation for backing disruptive ideas. She studies Marcus with sharp, calculating eyes. "You're asking for seed funding to scale Eclipse," she says, tapping a pen against her notebook. "You've proven efficiency gains, but Charles Whitman won't sit quietly. You understand that, right?" Marcus nods firmly. "I don't expect him to. He's already tried to bury me with lies, with lawyers, with smear campaigns. None of it changes the truth. Eclipse works, and if it scales, it changes everything." Dana leans back, considering. Finally, she smiles. "I like founders who fight uphill battles. They usually build the strongest companies. I'm in." Relief surges through Marcus, though he keeps his expression steady. With funding secured, Luminar Technologies is officially born. News of Marcus's startup spreads quickly. Supporters cheer him on, framing Luminar as a David rising against Goliath. But inside Whitman Enterprises, Charles reacts with predictable fury. In his office, he slams the news article down on his desk. "A company? He thinks he can compete with me?" His lawyer swallows nervously. "Sir, if Luminar gains traction, investors might start pulling out of Whitman Enterprises." Charles's face twists. "Then we'll crush him before he gains traction. Sabotage, lawsuits, pressure, whatever it takes. I built this empire, and no upstart engineer will take it from me." Meanwhile, Marcus throws himself into building Luminar. With Jenna by his side, he recruits a small team of engineers, young, hungry innovators tired of corporate politics. They work out of a rented loft space, their desks crowded with wires, whiteboards covered in equations. Every night, the team tests and refines Eclipse. Each breakthrough brings them closer to a scalable product. Morale runs high, fueled by Marcus's relentless drive. But the obstacles are constant. Whitman Enterprises files an injunction claiming Eclipse violates company patents. Vendors back out of deals after mysterious phone calls. Even their internet cuts out one night, only to be traced later to a technical error tied to Whitman's contractors. Marcus sees the pattern clearly. Charles is pulling every dirty trick. One evening, after yet another setback, Jenna finds Marcus staring at the prototype, frustration written all over his face. "He's trying to choke us before we can breathe," Marcus mutters. Jenna places a hand on his shoulder. "Then we breathe louder. He's fighting with money and power. You fight with truth and innovation. That's why people are with you." Marcus looks at her, determination sparking again. "Then we'll give them something worth believing in." A month later, Luminar hosts its first public showcase. Dozens of industry professionals pack into the loft-turned demonstration hall. Cameras stream the event live. Marcus steps onto the small stage, Eclipse behind him. "Thank you for being here," he begins, his voice steady. "Eclipse isn't just a prototype anymore, it's a product, and it's ready." The system powers on, data streaming onto screens. Efficiency climbs past 60% again, this time sustained across multiple tests. The crowd murmurs in awe, reporters snap photos, investors take notes. As the demo concludes, applause fills the room. Marcus feels the weight of every sleepless night lift, replaced by something he hasn't felt in years. Hope. But the celebration doesn't last long. Halfway through a Q&A session, a man in a suit barges in, handing Marcus a thick envelope. "Mr. Reed, you've been served," he announces loudly. The crowd gasps. Marcus opens the envelope. It's a lawsuit. Whitman Enterprises is suing Luminar for intellectual property theft and damages exceeding $100 million. Cameras flash as Charles Whitman's shadow looms larger than ever. Marcus grips the papers, his jaw set. For a moment, silence fills the room. Then he looks up, voice firm. "This isn't a setback," he declares. "It's proof we're a threat, and threats scare people who cling to power, but no lawsuit will stop the truth." The audience erupts in applause, rallying behind him. Even as legal storm clouds gather, Marcus knows the fight has only just begun. The lawsuit lands like a thunderclap. Headlines scream, "Whitman Enterprises sues former engineer for $100 million. Tech war heats up. Eclipse versus corporate giant." News anchors debate nightly. Some claim Marcus Reed is a reckless dreamer who bit off more than he could chew. Others hail him as a visionary standing up to corporate greed. The media circus spins faster than Marcus can follow. At Luminar's loft, tension crackles in the air. His young team pores over schematics but whispers nervously about the lawsuit. Investors call, hesitant but still intrigued. Jenna keeps morale alive, reminding everyone that Eclipse is bigger than one man's ego. Still, Marcus feels the weight pressing on his shoulders. Every step forward is met with Charles Whitman's hammer. One evening, Marcus and Jenna sit surrounded by papers and laptops, exhaustion etched on their faces. "He's trying to drown us in legal fees," Marcus mutters, flipping through the thick stack of documents. "Even if we win, he thinks we'll run out of money first." Jenna meets his eyes. "Then we don't just fight in the courtroom, we fight out here too, in public." Whitman's power comes from his reputation, so let's hit him where it hurts. The next morning, Marcus records a short video. Standing in front of Eclipse, he speaks directly to the camera. "Whitman Enterprises wants you to believe Eclipse belongs to them. But the truth is simple. This invention was built in my apartment on my time, with my resources. Charles Whitman doesn't want progress. He wants control. But we won't let him bury innovation. Luminar is here to bring change, not greed." He posts it online. Within hours, it explodes. Millions watch, share, and comment. Hashtags resurface, #justice. For Reed, #Eclipse. Truth, #Whitman exposed. Support surges. Crowdfunding campaigns pop up to support Luminar's legal defense. Universities release statements praising Marcus's innovation. Activists hold rallies, chanting his name. For the first time, Charles Whitman looks less like a titan and more like a bully. But Charles fights back with his favorite weapon, money. He floods news outlets with polished ads painting Marcus as unstable. Slick narrators warn of untested technology and reckless leadership. The public is split, but cracks in Whitman's empire begin to show. Stock prices for Whitman Enterprises dip slightly. Employees whisper about Marcus in the hallways, some secretly admiring his courage. One night, Marcus receives a call from an unfamiliar number. A gravelly voice introduces himself as General Howard, a retired military leader known for integrity. "I've been following your story, Mr. Reed," the general says. "Eclipse isn't just an invention, it's a national asset. Efficiency like that could change everything from energy grids to defense systems. If Whitman is trying to bury it, he's not just hurting you, he's hurting the country." Marcus grips the phone tighter. "General, with all respect, why reach out to me?" "Because I believe in innovation over intimidation. And you're not alone. There are people in high places who want to see you succeed. You'll have allies when the time comes." The line goes dead, leaving Marcus stunned. For the first time, support comes not just from the streets, but from the halls of power. Meanwhile, Luminar's office becomes a hub of resilience. The team works day and night, refining Eclipse, preparing for trial, and planning their next showcase. Despite Charles's constant interference, the invention keeps evolving, more stable and powerful than before. Jenna notices Marcus burning out, but also burning brighter. "You've turned this into more than a product," she tells him one late night. "It's a movement. People are rooting for you not just because Eclipse works, but because you refuse to bow." Marcus nods, though his eyes are tired. "Then I can't stop now. If I stop, Whitman wins. And that's not an option." The showdown draws near. Court dates are set. Whitman's lawyers sharpen their knives. But outside the courthouse, protesters chant Marcus's name, holding signs that read, "Innovation over intimidation." On the morning of the first hearing, Marcus steps out of a black car, Jenna beside him. Cameras flash, microphones crowd his face. "Mr. Reed, do you think you can beat Whitman Enterprises?" one reporter shouts. Marcus pauses, then looks directly into the lens. "This isn't about beating Whitman. It's about proving that truth and progress can't be bought. Eclipse belongs to the future, and the future doesn't answer to fear." The crowd erupts in cheers. Marcus squares his shoulders and walks toward the courthouse doors. Inside, Charles Whitman waits, a cold smile plastered on his face. But for the first time, he doesn't look invincible. The courthouse is buzzing. Reporters fill the steps, cameras flash like lightning, and protesters chant Marcus Reed's name as he walks toward the entrance. Beside him, Jenna whispers, "Stay calm. They want to see you rattled." Don't give them that satisfaction. Inside, the air feels colder. The polished oak benches creak under the weight of spectators. At the front, Charles Whitman sits with his army of lawyers, his smug smile firmly in place. He leans back, adjusting his cufflinks, exuding power and arrogance. Marcus takes his seat with his modest legal team, trying to steady his breathing. His lawyer, Amelia Grant, a sharp, determined attorney known for standing up to corporate giants, places a hand on his arm. "Remember, Marcus, we're not just defending you. We're defending Eclipse and everything it represents." He nods. "I'm ready." The judge enters, calling the courtroom to order. Whitman's lead attorney, a tall man with silver hair, rises first. His voice is smooth, rehearsed. "Your Honor, Whitman Enterprises seeks relief from the theft of intellectual property and damages exceeding $100 million. Mr. Reed, while under employment, developed technology, Eclipse, that rightfully belongs to the company. Instead, he's attempting to market it independently, jeopardizing safety and financial stability." Gasps ripple through the room. Marcus grips the edge of the table but forces himself to stay composed. Amelia rises next. Her tone is firm, unapologetic. "Your Honor, Eclipse was conceived, funded, and developed entirely outside the scope of Mr. Reed's employment. Whitman Enterprises claims ownership because they fear competition, not because they have evidence. What we have here is an attempt to silence innovation through intimidation." The judge nods, scribbling notes. "Proceed with evidence." Whitman's team presents documents, employment contracts, vague clauses suggesting that all inventions created during tenure may belong to the company. They project Marcus's old ID badge on the screen, emphasizing his link to Whitman Enterprises. But Amelia counters with receipts, timestamps, and eyewitness accounts. She calls Jenna to the stand. "Miss Carter, can you describe where Marcus built Eclipse?" "In his apartment," Jenna answers clearly. "I was there. He bought the parts with his own money. He spent nights and weekends working long after company hours. Whitman had nothing to do with it." The opposing attorney smirks. "And yet, you expect us to believe an engineer could build a billion-dollar prototype in a tiny apartment without corporate resources?" Jenna meets his gaze without flinching. "I don't expect you to believe it. I expect you to look at the data. It works. That's proof enough." Murmurs ripple through the crowd. The judge raises a brow, intrigued. During recess, Marcus steps outside for air. The crowd of supporters cheers as he appears, waving signs. "Stand with Reed! Innovation over intimidation!" Their voices give him strength. But across the plaza, Charles emerges, surrounded by cameras. His words cut through the noise. "Marcus Reed is reckless. He's putting lives at risk with untested technology. Whitman Enterprises has the experience to handle breakthroughs responsibly. He does not." The media devours his soundbite, twisting it into headlines. Marcus clenches his fists, but Jenna whispers, "Let him talk." Every word makes him look more desperate. Back inside, the trial continues. Amelia introduces new evidence, independent scientists who verified Eclipse's results. One by one, they testify, confirming Marcus's claims. The courtroom grows tense as truth begins to outweigh Whitman's polished lies. Then, just as the day seems to be ending in Marcus's favor, a surprise twist. Amelia calls her final witness, Dr. Evelyn Cho. The room stirs as she takes the stand. Dr. Cho, a respected former Whitman Enterprises scientist, clears her throat. "I worked under Charles Whitman for 7 years," she begins. "I left because of unethical practices. Whitman has a history of claiming credit for innovations developed by his employees. Eclipse is not the first time he's tried to bury or steal progress." The courtroom erupts in whispers. Charles's face darkens, his composure cracking for the first time. Dr. Cho continues, "I saw Marcus's work. I know it was his. And I know Whitman Enterprises has tried everything to destroy him because they fear losing control. The judge bangs his gavel to restore order, but the damage is done. Charles shifts uncomfortably, sweat beating at his temple. As the hearing adjourns, Marcus steps out of the courtroom into a sea of microphones. He doesn't make a speech, just raises a fist quietly, the gesture enough to send the crowd roaring. Jenna smiles beside him. Today was just the beginning, Marcus. You didn't just defend yourself, you exposed Charles. Marcus exhales, relief mingling with determination. Then tomorrow, we push even harder. This isn't just my fight anymore, it's everyone's. The morning after Dr. Evelyn Cho's testimony, headlines blaze across every major outlet. Whitman's empire cracks. Ex-scientist exposes pattern of theft. David versus Goliath. Reed gains ground in court. For Marcus, the shift feels surreal. Strangers stop him on the street, thanking him for standing up to corporate corruption. Messages pour in from young engineers and students, calling him an inspiration. But with every step forward, Whitman's desperation grows. In his corner office, Charles Whitman seethes. He hurls a crystal glass at the wall, watching it shatter. His closest advisor, a thin man named Porter, sits silently as Charles paces. "They're painting me as a thief," Charles spits. "Me, after everything I've built. Do you know what perception does in this industry? If investors doubt me, if board members start whispering," Porter interjects carefully. "Then we shift the battlefield. If we can't destroy Reed in court, we destroy his foundation, his team, his allies." Charles stops pacing, his eyes narrowing. "Go after them." The next week, subtle cracks appear in Luminar's world. One of Marcus's engineers, a quiet genius named Daniel, receives a sudden letter, a threatening notice about visa irregularities. He panics, fearing deportation. Another teammate, Priya, finds her bank account frozen due to suspicious activity. Bills bounce, her landlord threatens eviction. Even Jenna isn't spared. She arrives at Luminar shaken, holding a letter. "Marcus, this came to my parents' house. It's a threat. They mentioned Eclipse by name." Marcus takes the paper, anger burning in his chest. "He's targeting all of you, to scare me into folding." Jenna meets his eyes. "Then he underestimated us. We're not folding." At night, Marcus lies awake, the weight crushing him. He built Eclipse to make the world better, not to endanger the people he cares about. Yet here they are, under fire because of him. Jenna notices his silence. "Don't carry this alone," she says softly. "Charles thinks he can break you by isolating you. Prove him wrong. Lean on us. Lean on the people who believe in you." Marcus closes his eyes, her words anchoring him. For the first time, he lets himself admit it. He can't win this war alone. The next morning, he calls Lila Torres, the journalist who first published his story. "I need your help," he says. She arrives at Luminar with her camera crew. Marcus gathers his team, standing before them with steady resolve. "Whitman is trying to scare us. Threats, lies, intimidation, it's all he knows. But the world deserves to see the truth. Not just about Eclipse, but about the man trying to bury it." Lila films as Marcus and his team tell their stories. Daniel speaks of the visa threat, Priya about her frozen account, Jenna about the letter to her family. Their voices shake but don't break. When the video goes live, it hits harder than Marcus expected. People are outraged. Hashtags trend again. #Stand with Luminar, #Whitman exposed, #hands off Reed. Protesters double in number, filling streets outside Whitman Enterprises with chants. Former employees begin contacting Marcus, offering testimony of their own experiences under Charles. The movement swells. Charles watches from his office, his face pale with rage. "They're turning my tactics against me," he mutters. "They think public sympathy will win them a war." Porter swallows nervously. "Sir, the board is unsettled. Stockholders are calling for explanations. They're asking if any of these claims have merit." Charles's fist slams down. "Merit? I am the merit. I built this company. Without me, it crumbles." But even as he shouts, he sees it. His empire isn't untouchable anymore. Back at Luminar, Marcus feels momentum shifting. Donations pour in, volunteers offer free legal assistance, and the startup becomes a symbol of resistance. Still, he knows Charles won't stop. Late at night, staring at Eclipse humming softly in the corner, Marcus whispers to himself, "This isn't just about technology anymore. It's about who shapes the future, fear or progress." Jenna, working beside him, overhears. She places a hand on his shoulder. Then let's make sure it's progress, together. Marcus nods, determination hardening once more. The storm is far from over, but for the first time, he feels ready to face it head-on. The second week of trial dawns gray and heavy. Rain spatters against the courthouse steps as Marcus walks in, flanked by Jenna and Amelia Grant. Protesters huddle under umbrellas, chanting his name anyway. Their persistence steals his resolve. Inside, the courtroom is tense. Charles Whitman sits at the front, jaw set, lawyers whispering urgently in his ear. He looks confident, but Marcus notices the faint twitch at the corner of his eye, a crack in the armor. The judge calls for the presentation of new evidence. Whitman's attorneys begin first, unloading thick binders of contracts and technical papers. They try to bury Marcus in legal jargon, claiming Eclipse's design principles overlap with Whitman Enterprises' patents. Amelia counters sharply, "Overlap isn't theft. Energy efficiency has universal methods, but Eclipse's core algorithm is unique. That uniqueness is why Whitman fears it." The judge frowns, weighing the words. Then Amelia rises again. "Your Honor, we have new evidence to submit." Whispers ripple through the courtroom as Amelia unveils a flash drive. She connects it to the projector. The screen flickers, revealing a series of internal emails. Emails pulled from a whistleblower inside Whitman Enterprises. Marcus's heart races. He hasn't seen these before. The first email is from Charles himself, dated months before Marcus left the company. Reed's project shows promise. If it works, claim it under corporate property. He won't fight. He doesn't have the resources. Gasps fill the room. The judge leans forward. Another email appears, this one from Porter, Whitman's advisor. "If Reed insists Eclipse is his, we discredit him. Character attacks, financial pressure, immigration status, whatever sticks. The goal is to bury him before anyone listens." The courtroom erupts. Spectators murmur angrily. Reporters scribble furiously. Marcus feels Jenna squeeze his hand, her eyes wide with vindication. Charles leaps to his feet. "This is nonsense, fabricated. My company is the victim here." But Amelia's voice slices through his protest. "Your Honor, these emails were verified by independent forensic experts. Their origin traces directly to Whitman Enterprises servers. This isn't fabrication, it's confession." The judge bangs the gavel, restoring order. "We'll examine the validity of these documents thoroughly. For now, they stand as submitted evidence." Charles sinks into his chair, face flushed, eyes darting. For the first time, he looks cornered. During recess, Marcus steps outside, the storm breaking into sunlight. Reporters swarm him, firing questions. "Mr. Reed, what's your response to these emails?" He breathes deeply, speaking clearly. The truth has a way of surfacing, no matter how much money or power tries to bury it. "Today isn't just a win for me. It's a win for every innovator who's been silenced by greed." The crowd cheers, signs waving in the air. The shift is palpable. The court of public opinion is no longer divided. Whitman is losing. Back inside Luminar's loft, the team watches the news coverage. Daniel shakes his head in awe. Emails straight from Whitman's servers. That's the smoking gun. Priya smiles, relief washing over her. He can't spin his way out of this one. It's all there in black and white. But Marcus isn't celebrating yet. He sits at his desk, staring at Eclipse humming softly. Whitman's desperate. If he feels cornered, he'll lash out harder than ever. "We can't let our guard down." Jenna sits beside him. "Then we prepare, because whatever storm is coming, we'll face it together." In his office that night, Charles Whitman rages. He tears papers off his desk, smashing a framed award against the wall. Porter tries to calm him, but Charles roars, "They think they've beaten me with emails? I built this empire with fire and steel. If I'm going down, I'll scorch the earth with me." His voice echoes off the glass walls. In his eyes burns something darker than anger, fear mixed with desperation. The next morning, Amelia receives an anonymous tip. She calls Marcus immediately. "We need to talk," she says urgently. When Marcus arrives at her office, Amelia lays out a USB drive. "If this is real, it could end Whitman completely. But it's dangerous." Marcus frowns. "What's on it?" She meets his eyes. Financial records, evidence of offshore accounts, bribes, even payments to suppress other inventors. If this comes out, Whitman won't just lose the trial, he could face criminal charges. Marcus feels his pulse quicken. The war isn't just about Eclipse anymore, it's about exposing a rot at the core of an empire. He leans back, determination hardening. Then it's time the world sees everything. The leaked emails shook Whitman's empire, but the anonymous financial records threatened to obliterate it. Marcus knows it, Amelia knows it, and Charles Whitman knows it most of all. By the next morning, the media swarms with speculation. News anchors dissect the emails, pundits argue about the offshore accounts rumor, and the phrase Whitman corruption scandal begins trending nationwide. But Marcus senses danger. Charles is too powerful to simply roll over, and desperate men don't fight fair. Inside Whitman Enterprises' skyscraper, Charles stands at the window overlooking the city. His reflection glares back at him, jaw clenched. Porter, pale and sweating, updates him. "The board wants answers, sir. Investors are calling non-stop. They're worried about a criminal probe." Charles turns slowly, his voice ice cold. "Then we bury Reed before the probe buries me. We don't fight in the courtroom anymore. We fight in the shadows." Porter swallows. "What do you mean?" Charles steps closer, his eyes burning. "Find his weakness. Family, friends, anything. If he wants a war, I'll show him what war looks like." That evening, Marcus and Jenna return to their apartment. The street outside feels too quiet. As Marcus fumbles with his keys, he notices a folded piece of paper tucked under the doorframe. He opens it. The message is short, typed in bold black letters. "Walk away, or she pays." Marcus freezes, his stomach lurching. He shows it to Jenna, whose face drains of color. "They're threatening us now," Marcus whispers. Jenna squares her shoulders, voice steady despite the fear in her eyes. "Then it means we're winning. He wouldn't lash out like this if he wasn't cornered." But Marcus sees the truth. Whitman is no longer just targeting his career. He's targeting his life. The next day in court, Amelia notices Marcus's distracted expression. During a recess, she pulls him aside. "What happened?" Marcus hesitates, then shows her the note. Her eyes narrow. "This is intimidation, straight out of Whitman's playbook. I'll file a complaint immediately." Marcus shakes his head. "That'll only make him escalate. I can't risk Jenna's safety." Amelia leans in, her tone fierce. "Marcus, listen to me. That's exactly what he wants, to scare you into silence. If you back down now, Whitman wins. If you stand firm, we can bring every one of his crimes into the light." Marcus takes a deep breath, steadying himself. "Then we keep going, no matter what." Back at Luminar, the team pushes forward. Eclipse continues to evolve, the prototype now running smoother than ever, but the tension is thick. They know they're not just working on a project, they're surviving a siege. Daniel glances at Marcus. "Boss, if Whitman's playing dirty, maybe we should step back. Lie low until the trial ends." Marcus shakes his head. "If we hide, Whitman controls the narrative. Eclipse isn't just about me, it's about proving no one can kill progress with threats. We move forward, always." The team nods, their fear slowly transforming into defiance. Meanwhile, Amelia digs into the anonymous financial records. What she uncovers is staggering. Millions funneled through shell companies, payments to lobbyists, politicians, even regulators, and names of inventors who mysteriously vanished from the industry after clashing with Whitman. She calls Marcus late that night. "This isn't just corruption. This is a pattern of destruction. If we expose this, Charles won't just lose his company, he could face prison." Marcus exhales, the weight of it sinking in. "Then that's what we do. Not just for me, for everyone he's crushed along the way." But Charles isn't finished. The next morning, news outlets suddenly broadcast a shocking story. Marcus Reed accused of fraud. Grainy photos appear on screens, showing Marcus meeting with supposed shady investors. Anonymous sources claim Luminar is built on lies. Marcus watches the broadcast in disbelief. "This is fake," he mutters. "Those photos are doctored." Jenna grips his hand. "He's trying to turn the spotlight back on you, but people will see through it." Marcus isn't so sure. Public opinion is powerful, and Whitman knows how to manipulate it. In court that afternoon, Whitman's lawyers smugly reference the new headlines, painting Marcus as a man of questionable integrity. But Amelia is ready. She slams down a forensic report showing the photos are fabricated. Whitman's empire isn't just corrupt, it's desperate enough to forge evidence. The truth keeps cutting through their lies, and the lies keep multiplying. The judge eyes Whitman coldly. If forgery is proven, the consequences will be severe. Charles clenches his fists under the table, his facade cracking. That night, Marcus stands before his team. He looks exhausted, bruised by the relentless attacks, but his voice is steady. "Whitman wants us afraid. He wants us divided. But every time he strikes, we grow stronger. Eclipse isn't just an invention, it's a statement. That truth will outlast him. The room falls silent, then fills with quiet determination. His team isn't just following an engineer anymore. They're following a leader. The storm outside mirrors the chaos brewing within Whitman Enterprises. Lightning flickers against the glass towers of the city. Thunder rattles the skyline, but inside Marcus Reed's apartment, there's a fragile sense of focus. The team huddles around a table scattered with notes, prototypes, and coffee cups. Amelia, exhausted yet sharp, lays out the plan. We've got enough evidence now to shift this trial beyond civil damages. These financial records could trigger a federal investigation. Marcus listens, his jaw set. If we go public, it's not just Whitman on trial, it's his entire empire. But the risks. He glances at Jenna, who meets his gaze firmly. You already knew the risks, she says softly. The only way out is through. Meanwhile, Charles Whitman fights his own war in the shadows. The forged photos he planted against Marcus crumble under forensic scrutiny, but instead of retreating, he pushes harder. He summons his remaining allies, board members still loyal, executives who fear exposure. In the dimly lit conference room, his voice slices through the tension. Reed is a symbol now, Charles snarls. If we don't crush him, others will rise. I don't care what it takes. Sabotage, blackmail, leaks, destroy him before he destroys me. But even here, doubt creeps in. One board member dares to speak. Charles, the evidence is damning. If the feds get involved, none of us are safe. Maybe it's time to cut losses, step down before the fire spreads. Charles's glare silences the room. Step down? I built this empire. Reed won't be the one to take it from me. The next day in court, the atmosphere feels different. Reporters buzz louder, spectators lean forward, anticipation hanging heavy. Amelia calls her star witness, an FBI financial crimes analyst. The analyst takes the stand, unfolding a report that connects Whitman Enterprises to offshore accounts, illicit lobbying payments, and suppressed patents. These documents suggest a long-standing pattern of corporate fraud and unethical practices, he declares. Gasps ripple through the courtroom. Charles stiffens, his lawyers scrambling to object, but the judge overrules them. For the first time, the trial shifts from a corporate dispute to the brink of criminal exposure. During recess, Marcus steps outside. The rain has cleared, leaving the air fresh. Protesters chant louder than ever. Justice for Reed! Whitman must fall! A young boy pushes through the crowd to hand Marcus a handwritten note. My dad's an engineer too, the boy says shyly. He says you're showing us we can stand up to people who try to steal our dreams. Marcus unfolds the note, reading the simple words, keep going. We believe in you. His throat tightens. He crouches, placing a hand on the boy's shoulder. Tell your dad he's right. We never stop fighting for what's ours. The moment is captured on dozens of cameras, the image spreading across social media within minutes. By evening, it's plastered on headlines. Marcus Reed inspires next generation. Inside Whitman Enterprises, panic grows. Stock prices tumble, investors flee, and whispers of indictment spread through the halls. Porter corners Charles in his office. Sir, we can't contain this. The analysts are circling, the media's relentless. If you don't step aside now, you'll drag us all into the fire. Charles's face twists with rage. You think I'll surrender to a nobody? A black engineer who dared defy me? Porter hesitates, then lowers his voice. With respect, sir, he's not a nobody anymore. The words hang heavy. For the first time, Charles doesn't respond. He just stares out the window, the empire he built crumbling beneath his feet. Back at Luminar, Marcus and his team gather around the television as news anchors announce breaking updates. Federal investigators have formally opened a preliminary probe into Whitman Enterprises. Sources say criminal charges may soon follow. Cheers erupt in the room. Priya hugs Daniel, Jenna grabs Marcus's hand, and even Amelia cracks a tired smile. Marcus doesn't celebrate loudly. Instead, he exhales deeply, feeling the weight lift slightly. We're not finished, he reminds them. Whitman won't go down quietly, but for the first time, the tide is with us. Jenna leans against him, whispering, and when the tide turns, it sweeps away everything in its path. That night, Marcus walks through the city alone, needing air. Billboards flash headlines, strangers nod as he passes. He feels the shift in the world around him. For so long, he was the underdog, dismissed, mocked, erased. Now he's a name that can't be ignored. But he also knows what comes next. Charles won't vanish without one final strike. And Marcus must be ready for it. He stares at the skyline, Eclipse glowing in his mind's eye. "You tried to bury me," he whispers to the night, "but you planted a seed instead, and now it's too big to stop. The storm inside Charles Whitman has reached its peak. His once pristine empire is crumbling, investors are fleeing, and the FBI is circling. Yet, even as the walls close in, he refuses to bow. Late at night, he gathers the last of his loyalists in a smoky back room of the tower. His eyes burn with rage. "They want to destroy me?" His voice cracks like a whip. "Then I'll destroy Reed first. If I go down, he'll come with me." Porter shifts uneasily. "Sir, at this point, retaliation could mean prison, more than what's already coming." Charles leans in close, his face twisted. "If I'm doomed, I won't be alone in the ashes. Find a way. Hit him where it hurts most." The next morning, Marcus and his team arrive at Luminar to find the building's front door vandalized. Spray-painted slurs, shattered glass, police tape flaps in the wind. Daniel shakes his head. This is Whitman. He's sending a message. Marcus steps carefully over the glass, heart pounding. Inside, the lab is intact, but the message is clear: intimidation. Jenna places a steadying hand on his arm. He's unraveling. That's why he's resorting to this. We can't let him win by fear. Amelia arrives minutes later, fuming. "We'll document everything. Vandalism, threats. This will all add to the case. But Marcus, you need to be careful. A cornered man is the most dangerous." In court that day, Whitman's attorneys try one last desperate maneuver, accusing Marcus of violating non-disclosure agreements, claiming Eclipse is tainted by intellectual theft. Amelia rises, her voice slicing through the air. "Nonsense. The evidence is overwhelming that Eclipse is Reed's creation, and Whitman's own emails prove he intended to steal it." She flashes the projector with the damning words once more. "Claim it under corporate property. He won't fight." The judge narrows his eyes. "Mr. Whitman, these statements alone could warrant perjury charges if contradicted under oath." The courtroom buzzes. Charles sits rigid, sweat beating at his temples. For the first time, he looks small, like a man stripped of his invincibility. That evening, Marcus receives a call from an unknown number. Against his better judgment, he answers. "Reed." The voice is unmistakable. Charles Whitman. Marcus grips the phone tighter. "You have nothing left, Charles. This is over." Charles chuckles darkly. "Over? Not yet. You think evidence and headlines will stop me? I built this city's skyline. I own the judges, the politicians, the press. You're just a kid with a gadget." Marcus's voice hardens. "No, Charles. I'm a man with the truth, and the truth doesn't die." A pause. Then Charles hisses, "Then neither do I. Watch your back." The line clicks dead. Marcus lowers the phone, his pulse racing. He knows Whitman isn't bluffing. The following day, Luminar is thrown into chaos. A random inspection team shows up, armed with badges demanding access to Eclipse. Marcus knows immediately this isn't legitimate. He stalls them while Amelia calls in federal contacts. Within hours, it's confirmed. The inspection team was fake, hired muscle in disguise. Security footage catches them fleeing the building when real agents arrive. News spreads fast. Headlines scream, "Whitman tied to corporate espionage attempt." Public outrage surges. For Marcus, the attempted theft is terrifying but also galvanizing. His team rallies around him, furious and more determined than ever. Daniel slams a fist on the table. He's finished. No more hiding, no more lies. The whole world sees what he is now. Meanwhile, Whitman Enterprises descends into open revolt. The board convenes an emergency meeting, with several members demanding Charles resign. Porter, once his staunchest ally, finally breaks. "You're toxic, Charles. You've dragged us all into ruin. I won't burn with you." Charles glares around the table, eyes wild. "Traitors, all of you. You wouldn't have jobs, money, power without me, and now you abandon me?" But the silence that follows is deafening. His empire has abandoned him. That night, Marcus sits with Jenna on their balcony, the city lights flickering. Despite the fear still lingering, he feels the tide fully turning. "He's crumbling," Jenna whispers. Marcus nods slowly. "Yeah, but we have to finish this. It's not just about winning the trial anymore, it's about ensuring Whitman never does this to anyone again." Jenna squeezes his hand. "Then let's finish it." The courthouse is packed tighter than ever. Reporters line the halls, cameras flash constantly, and the whispers of a verdict draw near. Marcus takes his seat at the plaintiff's table, Jenna in the gallery behind him, Amelia standing tall at his side. Across the room, Charles Whitman sits hunched, his once commanding posture replaced by a grim stiffness. Today, both sides are set to give closing arguments. The jury listens with heavy eyes, their expressions marked by weeks of testimony, documents, and damning revelations. But Charles has one last card left. As Amelia prepares her notes, Whitman's lead attorney suddenly stands. "Your Honor," he begins, "before closings, we wish to submit new testimony. A whistleblower who has just come forward with evidence against Mr. Reed." Gasps ripple through the courtroom. Marcus stiffens. The judge frowns. This is highly irregular at this stage. Why wasn't this disclosed earlier? The attorney clears his throat. The witness feared retaliation, but their conscience compelled them to speak now. A side door opens. A man in a gray suit walks in, slim, nervous, eyes darting. He introduces himself as a former Luminar contractor. "I saw Marcus Reed take confidential files from Whitman Enterprises," the man claims, voice shaking. "Eclipse isn't his. It's built from stolen data." The courtroom erupts. Amelia leaps to her feet. "Objection! This testimony is fabricated. We demand a delay to cross-examine this so-called witness properly." The judge bangs the gavel. "Order, I will allow questioning, but will proceed carefully." Marcus's stomach churns. He doesn't know this man, never seen him before, and yet the lies spill effortlessly from his mouth. He glances at Charles, who smirks faintly for the first time in days. During cross-examination, Amelia slices through the testimony with precision. "You claim you worked at Luminar. Which division?" The man hesitates. "The development division." "Luminar has no development division. Which office did you report to?" The downtown branch." Amelia slams a binder shut. "Luminar has never had a downtown branch. You're lying under oath and this court knows it." Murmurs ripple again. The judge eyes the witness sternly. "Answer carefully. Perjury is a serious offense." The man falters, sweat dripping down his temple. Then, under Amelia's relentless questions, the truth cracks. He was paid off by Whitman's people. Gasps turn into an audible outcry. The judge calls for silence, his gavel hammering. "Enough! This court will not tolerate manipulation of witnesses. The testimony is stricken from the record." Marcus exhales shakily, relief flooding him. Jenna meets his eyes from the gallery, mouthing, "You're okay." But he notices Charles gripping the edge of his table, trembling with fury. His last gambit has failed in plain sight. After recess, Amelia delivers her closing statement. She doesn't waste time on technical jargon. Instead, she speaks to the heart. This case is not just about patents and profit margins. It's about power. It's about whether the wealthy can bully and steal from the brilliant, silencing those who dare to create. Marcus Reed built Eclipse with his mind, his sacrifice, his sleepless nights, and Charles Whitman tried to bury it under lies and intimidation. The jury has seen the evidence, the emails, the bank records, the forgery attempts, the fabricated witness. Every step Whitman took was an attempt to silence the truth, but the truth is louder, and it stands before you today. She turns, gesturing to Marcus. "This man is not just an engineer. He is a builder of the future. If you believe in fairness, if you believe innovation belongs to those who create it, then the verdict is clear." The courtroom is silent, the weight of her words hanging heavy. Whitman's attorney speaks next, but the damage is irreparable. His voice wavers as he fumbles through half-hearted defenses. Even the jury looks disinterested. The smirk is gone from Charles's face. All that remains is hollow anger. When court adjourns, Marcus steps outside to a storm of reporters. Questions fly, cameras flash. "How do you feel about the trial ending? What will you do if you win? What if you lose?" Marcus answers simply, "Whatever the verdict, the truth has already won. Whitman's empire has been exposed, and Eclipse will shine no matter what." The crowd erupts in cheers. Protesters chant his name, waving signs, "Innovation belongs to all. Reed for justice." That night, Marcus sits with his team in Luminar's loft. They're exhausted but hopeful. The trial is nearly over. Priya breaks the silence. "Tomorrow could change everything." Marcus nods slowly. "No. Tomorrow will change everything. For Whitman, for us, for every dreamer who's ever been told they're not enough." He gazes at Eclipse, humming quietly in the corner. It feels alive now, more than just an invention. It's a symbol. And tomorrow, the world will decide its fate. Morning breaks with a restless hum across the city. News vans crowd the courthouse steps, anchors rehearsing lines for what could be the most pivotal corporate trial in years. Inside, the air is thick, as if everyone is holding a collective breath. Marcus sits at the plaintiff's table, fingers interlocked tightly, Amelia beside him, calm but sharp-eyed. Behind them, Jenna squeezes into the gallery, her expression a mixture of fear and faith. Across the room, Charles Whitman slumps in his chair, his suit wrinkled, his once imposing figure diminished. The jury files back in. 12 faces, solemn and deliberate, take their seats. The judge looks over them. "Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, have you reached a verdict?" The foreman rises, a folded sheet in hand. "We have, Your Honor." The silence is suffocating. Every shuffle of paper, every cough echoes through the chamber. The foreman clears his throat. "On the claim of intellectual theft, we find in favor of the plaintiff, Marcus Reed." Gasps ripple across the room. Marcus exhales, shoulders trembling. Jenna clasps her hands together, whispering a prayer of relief. The foreman continues. "On the claim of corporate fraud, we find in favor of the plaintiff, Marcus Reed." Reporters scribble furiously, the gallery buzzing. Charles grips the table, knuckles white, his face draining of color. "And on the claim of damages," the foreman pauses, then looks up. "We award the plaintiff a sum of $2 billion. The room explodes. Cheers erupt from Marcus's supporters. Cameras flash. The chants outside the courthouse echo louder. Amelia smiles for the first time in weeks, placing a steadying hand on Marcus's shoulder. "It's over," she whispers. But across the aisle, Charles rises suddenly, his voice breaking. "No, this is rigged! Bought! You think you can erase me with papers and lies? I built this empire!" The judge bangs his gavel. "Mr. Whitman, sit down immediately, or you will be held in contempt." Charles rants louder, his voice hoarse. "This court means nothing. Reed is nothing. You'll all regret this." Bailiffs move in quickly, guiding him back down, his shouts dissolving into incoherent rage. The image is captured by every camera, transmitted instantly across the nation. The fall of Charles Whitman, once untouchable, now a broken man screaming at a truth too heavy to bear. Outside, the crowd roars as Marcus exits. Signs wave high. "Justice for Reed! Truth wins!" Reporters shove microphones forward. "Mr. Reed, how do you feel? What does this victory mean for engineers everywhere?" "What's next for you and Luminar?" Marcus pauses, Jenna at his side, Amelia just behind him. He raises his voice over the chaos. "This verdict isn't just mine. It belongs to every inventor, every dreamer, every person who's been told they're too small to matter. Today we proved that truth is stronger than fear, that integrity is stronger than corruption, and that no empire, no matter how powerful, can bury what's real." The cheers swell. His words cut through the air like a promise, carried by the cameras to millions watching at home. Back at Luminar later that night, the celebration is electric. Priya pops open sparkling cider, Daniel raises a toast, and the team erupts in applause. "To Marcus," Priya declares, "the man who showed us how to fight giants and win." Laughter, relief, and tears mingle in the air, but Marcus remains thoughtful, his gaze drifting toward the glowing prototype of Eclipse humming in the lab corner. He lifts his glass slowly. This isn't just a victory, it's a beginning. Whitman tried to chain the future for profit, but the future doesn't belong to him, it belongs to all of us. The room erupts again, their voices rising as one. Meanwhile, news networks replay the verdict endlessly. Clips of Charles's meltdown become viral memes, while Marcus's steady words trend across social platforms. Stock analysts predict Whitman Enterprises will collapse within weeks. Federal prosecutors announce they are pursuing criminal charges against Charles for fraud, perjury, and witness tampering. The tide has fully turned. Later that night, Marcus and Jenna step onto their balcony. The city glows beneath them, alive, renewed. Jenna leans against him. "You did it," she whispers. Marcus shakes his head gently. "We did it. And this is only the start." She smiles, her eyes catching the city lights. "Then let's make it count." Marcus pulls her close, the hum of Eclipse behind him like a heartbeat for the future. He knows the fight isn't truly over. There will always be those like Charles. But tonight, victory feels real. And for the first time, Marcus Reed believes the world is ready to listen. The morning after the verdict, the world feels different. News anchors call it the trial of the decade. Headlines scream across every platform. Whitman defeated. Engineer wins $2 billion in landmark case. Marcus Reed, the face of innovation. In the streets, people talk about it in cafes, on subway trains, even in classrooms. Children repeat Marcus's words, "The truth is stronger than fear." For many, it feels like a cultural turning point, but inside the penthouse of Whitman Tower, the atmosphere is suffocating. Charles sits alone in his vast office, curtains drawn, liquor glass half empty. The phone won't stop buzzing. Lawyers quitting, investors pulling out, federal subpoenas piling up. Porter, once his loyal lieutenant, enters cautiously. The prosecutors have moved fast. They're seeking charges for fraud, perjury, and conspiracy. "We need to—" Charles cuts him off, his voice ragged. "Leave, all of you. You're cowards." Porter stares, almost pitying him. "No, Charles, you're finished, and you did this to yourself." He sets down his resignation letter and walks away, leaving Charles to stew in silence. Meanwhile, Marcus arrives at Luminar to find crowds gathered outside, cheering as if he were a returning hero. Signs wave, "Justice for Reed, future belongs to innovators." News crews swarm, but this time their questions aren't sharp, they're celebratory. Inside, his team is buzzing. Priya pulls up charts. "Marcus, Eclipse is already trending on investor boards. Funding offers are pouring in. Venture capital, research grants, even international partners." Daniel grins wide. "We're not just a startup anymore. We're the face of the future." Marcus listens, humbled but wary. "Let's not forget why we're here. Eclipse isn't about profit, it's about change. We build this right, not fast. We make it accessible, not exclusive." The team nods, inspired by his conviction. For them, Marcus isn't just an inventor anymore. He's become a leader. Across the city, however, Charles refuses to go quietly. His lawyers scramble to appeal, filing desperate motions to overturn the verdict, but judges dismiss them instantly. His name is poison now. No one wants to be tied to his downfall. The media follows his every stumble. Paparazzi catch him exiting the courthouse, surrounded by jeers. Protesters hurl insults. "Thief! Fraud! Justice served!" Each headline digs deeper. Whitman Enterprises stock crashes 78% in 2 days. Federal agents raid Whitman offices. From Titan to Pariah, the fall of Charles Whitman. For Marcus, watching from afar, it's surreal. The man who once seemed untouchable now looks small, almost pathetic. But Marcus doesn't feel joy, only resolve. "This was never about revenge," he tells Jenna one evening. "It's about making sure people like him can't silence voices like ours again." The government moves swiftly. Subpoenas reveal years of hidden corruption, shell companies, bribed officials, buried inventions. The FBI announces indictments. Charles is formally charged and faces trial again, this time as a criminal defendant. News spreads like wildfire. Commentators call it justice long overdue. Analysts predict Whitman Enterprises will dissolve within months. Amid the chaos, Marcus faces new pressures. A major tech publication invites him to keynote their global summit. Investors line up, desperate to partner. Schools ask him to speak to students. Jenna, watching him juggle it all, worries. "You're only one person, Marcus. Don't let this victory consume you." Marcus smiles faintly. "I won't, but I can't waste it either. People are listening now. If we want real change, this is our chance." She takes his hand, steadying him. "Then promise me we'll walk this path together. Not as CEO and inventor, but as people. As us." He nods, kissing her forehead. "Always." Later that night, Marcus writes in his notebook, something he hasn't done since the trial began. He sketches improvements to Eclipse, ways to make it smaller, cheaper, more accessible. For him, success isn't billions of dollars or headlines. It's the chance to put power back into people's hands. On the TV in the corner, news of Whitman's downfall plays yet again, but Marcus doesn't linger on it. He closes his notebook, looking toward the humming prototype. "The future," he whispers, "is just beginning." The world doesn't sleep on Marcus Reed's victory. Within days, invitations pour in from around the globe. Universities want him as a guest lecturer. Governments want to fund partnerships, and the tech industry hails him as the engineer who beat the empire. But the most significant request comes from the Global Innovation Summit in San Francisco, an event watched by millions worldwide. For years, Whitman was the keynote speaker, commanding the stage with arrogance. Now Marcus has been asked to replace him. When Amelia delivers the news, Marcus hesitates. Me? I've never stood on a stage like that. Amelia smiles. Marcus, you've already stood on a bigger stage. A courtroom watched by the world. This is your chance to show them not just what you fought against, but what you stand for. The day of the summit arrives. The Moscone Center buzzes with energy, thousands of attendees filling the vast hall. Giant banners display Marcus's name alongside Eclipse. Journalists crowd every corner, live streams broadcasting globally. Backstage, Marcus adjusts his tie nervously. Jenna takes his hands, steadying him. You don't have to be perfect, just be you. That's why people believe in you. He nods, exhaling slowly. For years he was dismissed, insulted, told he didn't belong. Now all eyes are on him. The announcer's voice booms. Please welcome Marcus Reed, founder of Luminar Technologies. The applause is thunderous. Marcus steps onto the stage, the lights hot, the roar overwhelming. For a moment he feels small again, but then he sees Eclipse displayed on the screen behind him, glowing like a beacon. He begins quietly. Not long ago, I was told my ideas didn't matter, that my voice was too small, my background too humble. That innovation belonged to those with power, not to people like me. The crowd falls silent, hanging on his words. But innovation, Marcus continues, his voice gaining strength, doesn't come from power. It comes from struggle, from nights spent fixing code until dawn, from believing in something when no one else will. And today, I stand here because truth outlasts fear, because no empire can bury what's real. The audience erupts in applause, some even rising to their feet. He unveils Eclipse, showcasing its ability to store massive amounts of renewable energy at a fraction of the cost of current systems. Videos play of prototypes powering rural schools, hospitals, entire neighborhoods. This isn't about making billions, Marcus says firmly. It's about giving billions the chance to thrive. Eclipse will be open source, accessible to any community, any country that wants to use it, because the future belongs to all of us. The cheers shake the hall. Cameras capture every word, broadcasting to homes and offices worldwide. Meanwhile, across town in a hotel suite, Charles Whitman watches the live stream on a muted television. His face is pale, jaw tight. He sees Marcus standing where he once stood, commanding the stage that was once his throne. Open source, Charles mutters bitterly. Giving it away? Fool. But deep down, he knows it's over. No speech, no scheme could bring him back. His empire is gone, his name cursed. And Marcus Reed has replaced him not just in court, but in history. Back at the summit, Marcus finishes his talk to a standing ovation. Reporters swarm as he steps off stage, microphones thrust forward. What's next for Luminar? Do you think this will inspire other inventors? Do you feel you've replaced Charles Whitman as the face of innovation? Marcus pauses before answering. I don't want to replace anyone. I want to redefine what leadership and innovation means. It's not about ego or profit, it's about responsibility. If one invention can make life better for millions, then we owe it to the world to share it. His words ripple outward, carried by headlines, tweets, and broadcasts. The story of Marcus Reed is no longer just American, it's global. That evening, he and Jenna walk the quiet streets of San Francisco. The neon glow reflects in her eyes as she smiles. You know you just changed the world today, right? Marcus shakes his head gently. Not me, us, everyone who believed, everyone who refused to be silenced. He looks at her, then at the skyline ahead. This is just the beginning. The weeks following the Global Innovation Summit unfold like a tidal wave. Marcus's speech trends for days, replayed in classrooms, boardrooms, and even government assemblies. Eclipse becomes a rallying cry for progress. Articles declare it the invention that could end energy poverty. But while Marcus rises, Charles Whitman sinks further. Federal prosecutors move swiftly, dragging him into court not as a titan, but as a criminal defendant. Charges include fraud, conspiracy, perjury, and obstruction of justice. The evidence, once hidden behind billions, is now laid bare. The trial begins in a smaller courtroom, less glamorous than the civil trial Marcus endured, but the stakes are higher. The nation watches again. Reporters describe it as the fall of a corporate king. Charles walks into court shackled, dressed in a muted gray suit rather than his trademark tailored armor. His face is pale, his eyes sunken. Cameras capture his every step. Once, crowds had cheered his arrival. Now they jeer, shouting insults from behind barricades. Inside, the prosecution is relentless. They show documents of offshore accounts, hidden bribes, memos where Charles personally ordered cover-ups. They play recordings of calls in which he threatened subordinates into silence. Former allies testify against him. Porter, his old lieutenant, sits in the witness box, voice steady. "I stayed loyal longer than I should have. But Whitman wasn't just corrupt. He was dangerous. He'd destroy anyone who got in his way." Each revelation cuts deeper. Charles's lawyers struggle to respond, their defenses crumbling under the weight of undeniable truth. Meanwhile, Marcus refuses to gloat. When asked by reporters, he simply says, "This isn't about me, it's about accountability. No one should be above the law." His restraint earns him further respect, painting him not as a man chasing vengeance, but as a symbol of integrity. The climax comes after weeks of testimony. The jury files in, tension heavy. The judge asks, "Have you reached a verdict?" The forewoman stands. "We have, Your Honor." On each charge, fraud, conspiracy, perjury, obstruction, the jury finds Charles Whitman guilty. The courtroom explodes in gasps and murmurs. Charles drops his head into his hands, shaking. For the first time, the man who once commanded skyscrapers seems utterly broken. The judge speaks firmly. "Charles Whitman, you are hereby sentenced to 25 years in federal prison." Cheers rise from outside the courthouse, where crowds have gathered to watch on giant screens. Reporters rush to broadcast the news. The empire has not only fallen, but its architect is condemned. For Marcus, hearing the sentence feels like closure. He sits quietly with Jenna and Amelia, not smiling, not celebrating, just breathing deeply, as if a weight he didn't realize he still carried has finally lifted. Jenna whispers, "It's really over now." Marcus nods. "No, it's just truly beginning." The next day, headlines dominate every channel. Whitman sentenced. Corporate titan becomes inmate. Marcus Reed era begins. At Luminar's office, the atmosphere is electric. The team works late into the night, orders for Eclipse units already pouring in from schools, hospitals, and governments. Investors once afraid now clamor to be part of the movement. Priya looks around the buzzing office, smiling. "We're not just building tech anymore, we're building a legacy." Marcus, standing at the window overlooking the city, answers softly, "A legacy that belongs to everyone." But even in triumph, Marcus remains cautious. He knows the world is watching, waiting to see if his promise of open source and accessibility is real. That night, he drafts the public release of Eclipse's design framework, ensuring it will be free to any community willing to implement it. "Billions won't just come from profit," he tells his team. "It'll come from billions of lives changed." The team nods, their faces glowing with pride. Meanwhile, Charles spends his first night behind bars. The cell is stark, the silence deafening. No luxury, no power, no empire, just concrete walls. He stares at the ceiling, replaying Marcus's face in court, the words he once mocked now echoing. "Innovation belongs to those who dare." For the first time, Charles understands what it means to lose everything. Months pass, and the world begins to feel the ripple effects of Eclipse. What started as a prototype in a small lab is now transforming cities, villages, and nations. Remote schools in Africa run on clean power for the first time. Hospitals in disaster zones keep their lights on through the night. Families in rural America pay a fraction of what they once did for electricity. News outlets call it the Reed Revolution. Documentaries air about Marcus's journey from underestimated engineer to global icon. Children wear t-shirts with Eclipse's glowing symbol, and teachers tell their students, "See, innovation comes from courage, not privilege." For Marcus, it's surreal. He never wanted fame, only fairness. Yet every step he takes now feels larger than life. One brisk morning, Marcus stands at a podium in Washington, D.C. He's invited to address Congress about the role of innovation in shaping the nation's future. Senators, representatives, and leaders lean forward, listening. Marcus speaks not as a politician, but as a builder. "Eclipse isn't mine," he says. "It's ours." And it proves something simple. When you stop gatekeeping progress, when you trust people instead of corporations, you unleash potential greater than any one company or empire. We face global challenges, climate change, inequality, injustice. The answers won't come from power-hoarding elites. They'll come from communities, from dreamers, from those who believe tomorrow can be better. My promise to you is this: Luminar will never be an empire. It will always be a bridge. His words echo across the chamber, met with applause. Not the polite kind, but genuine, sustained applause that shakes the room. Meanwhile, Charles Whitman adjusts to life behind bars. The media rarely mentions him anymore, except as a cautionary tale. From titan to tragedy, one article calls him. His former empire is dismantled piece by piece, assets sold, patents redistributed. Ironically, some of his seized resources are redirected toward funding Eclipse's expansion. Charles reads the papers in silence, bitterness gnawing at him. Yet even he can't escape the truth. Marcus Reed has built something indestructible. Something he tried to crush but instead made stronger. Back at Luminar, the atmosphere is brighter than ever. The office hums with creativity. Engineers from around the world collaborate freely, using the open-source model to adapt Eclipse for their regions. Solar integrations in deserts, hydro setups in coastal towns, portable versions for disaster relief. Priya beams as she shows Marcus the latest reports. We've hit a milestone. Over 10 million people now use Eclipse-powered systems. Daniel adds, and because it's open source, communities are building their own. It's spreading faster than we can track. Marcus feels a swell of pride, but not the kind rooted in ego. It's the pride of seeing possibility unleashed. Jenna walks in, carrying coffee, her eyes warm. Told you your invention would change the world, she teases softly. Marcus laughs. It wasn't the invention, it was the belief that it belonged to everyone. She nods, slipping her hand into his. And that's why it worked. Later that evening, Marcus and Jenna stroll through a park lit entirely by Eclipse-powered lamps. Families gather, children chase one another, and musicians play under glowing lights. A young boy tugs at Marcus's sleeve. Are you Marcus Reed? Marcus crouches down, smiling. Yes, what's your name? Caleb, the boy says shyly. My school got Eclipse power last week. Now we can use computers all day. I want to be an engineer like you. Marcus's throat tightens. He places a hand on Caleb's shoulder. Then you'll be better than me. You'll build things I can't even imagine. The boy grins, running back to his friends. Jenna leans in, whispering, That's your legacy, Marcus. Not the billions, not the headlines. It's the kids who believe they can dream bigger because of you. As the night deepens, Marcus looks up at the stars. He thinks of every obstacle, every insult, every attempt to silence him. He remembers the moment Whitman mocked him, the courtroom battles, the endless nights of doubt, and he realizes something profound. All of it led here. The future isn't written by those who hoard power. It's written by those who dare to share it. He squeezes Jenna's hand, his voice steady. Justice isn't just a verdict. It's what comes after. And now, justice has finally found its place. The park glows brighter, laughter echoing around him. For the first time, Marcus Reed feels not like a survivor of injustice, but like a true architect of tomorrow.